Hi everyone, today we are going to talk about jewelry in China and about a specific category which is all about engagement rings and wedding bands. The reason why I want to talk about engagement and wedding is because it's really driving the sales of jewelry in China today. And before starting about all the different topics in it, I wanted to start by sharing with you a latest survey that was released a couple of weeks ago. In this survey, 2/3 of Chinese respondents said they would spend at least 4,000 USD in their wedding jewelry. And if you compare to Europeans and Americans, 2/3 of respondents said they would spend between 1,000 to 3,000 USD. So the gap is quite high. And what I think is interesting is that first you will have a higher market because there is much more consumers in China. We are talking about a country of 1.4 billion people, so it's quite high. But in the meantime, the consumer unit price is way higher. So the price at which they will pay their wedding jewelry is higher in China than anywhere else in the world. So for this, I think the market is quite interesting and has a strong potential if you are a jewelry brand and if you have such an assortment. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the market insights, the market trends, the market data, but also through the strategy that you can implement if you want to meet success in this market. So you can let me walk you through these different topics, but if you want to move faster, you can use the different chapters below to move faster to the strategy, if that's the part that you prefer to know about. But for the others, keep watching. Let's start with part 1, the history of wedding. I just wanted to do a quick topic about this because I think it's interesting to know what are the wedding traditions in China, how it evolved over time, and what are the current trends today when people get married in China. So just to take you back to the history, it was a long time the wedding took. And the reason why I think it was interesting to start by this topic is because recently, with some Chinese friends, we had a talk about engagement rings. And when I asked them what is an engagement ring, majority of them get a little confused because they couldn't define exactly what engagement ring is. And that was surprising for me because as a European and as a French person, we make a clear distinction between engagement ring and the wedding ring. And for them, the line is much more blurry. And the reason is simple, it's because for them in China during the wedding, there are much more different steps, which are very different from the West. So I will not go over through all the traditions, but before they had the 3 letters and 6 etiquettes, they needed agreements between the two families, the family of the bride and the family of the groom, that needed to be sure they are a good fit, that the families can be a good fit, and there will be mutual benefits. If you watched the Mulan cartoon, I'm sure you have noticed it. Another part that was super important was the oracles and the matchmaker, because the bride was going to see the matchmaker to be sure she was a good fit for the future husband. In Mulan, she has to show a good face to show that she can serve the tea, very important. In reality, it was very different. The main topics were about, of course, her social behavior, the way she acts, the financial meanings of the two families, and if, in terms of personalities, they were a good fit. Today, this evolved a lot. You don't go to a matchmaker anymore, but the truth is the same in the way that the wedding lasts for a long time. So today, if you assist to Chinese wedding, you will see that actually the wedding will start way earlier than the ceremony date, because you will have all the photo shoots, because the bride and groom have pictures before the wedding. So there is a whole process of taking the pictures, setting to the family and friends the pictures, getting the ceremony, etc. So I think it's super interesting to see how long this process is in terms of time frame. Now we can move to our second part, which is all about the jewelry evolution. In this part, it's quite interesting because there is a trend that is still accurate today for some Chinese families. And this trend is all about the 3 gold and 5 gold. So if we talk about 3 gold, actually it's a parure or a jewel set. So basically, what is the 3 gold? It's the ring, earrings, and a necklace. And when you talk about 5 gold, it's the same set of 3 golds, plus a bracelet, plus a pendant or a necklace. And this is quite interesting because it was helping to see the financial meaning of the family. So if you had 3 gold, you were a regular family, and if you have 5 gold, it means that you had more expensive jewelry, and you had like more financial assets. And basically what is interesting today is that some Chinese families still keep this tradition. What is interesting in your case is that if you propose jewelry sets, you can know that this assortment can be used for wedding and engagement, and especially more for wedding. So what is important is that actually it can increase your average basket. So people will not only purchase a wedding ring, they will also purchase bracelet, earrings, pendant, etc. So in this way, it's very important to market it in the right way, because before, these 3 gold and 5 gold were always in pure gold or in yellow gold. Today, they want something more modern. It's very different. So what they are looking for is for this jewelry set, this assortment, but much more in rose gold or white gold. And also with a specific stone, I'm sure you got it, with diamonds. And the reason why today diamonds is so successful in China, it has one reason and one name, which is De Beers. And I think it's super interesting to see how one brand has such a big impact on the Chinese market, and especially an international brand having a big impact on the Chinese market. The reason it all started like this is because De Beers released a campaign in China where the tagline was "A diamond is forever." And this simple slogan, this simple tagline really had a long-term effect on the Chinese man and the Chinese consumers, because people get to know that diamonds were, of course, beautiful, but also were an asset for investment. And today it's super important because when they will purchase high jewelry, fine jewelry, including diamonds, they really have in mind the fact that it's not only purchasing luxury, purchasing fashion, it's also investing in an asset. So this is taking us to our third part, which is all about the market review. I wanted to share with you this graph. In this graph, you can see the market volume of the market. And in 2022, it's forecasted that the market will reach 795 billion RMB, which is 115 billion USD. So from this, I think we can have like 2 main insights, and you can tell me in the comments if you agree or not, or if you see other insights that we can have from this graph. But from my perspective, what is super important is that in 2020, there was a big drop due to COVID-19, of course. So the COVID pandemic really bring a new, of course, a drop in weddings, but also a way to change their habits, and that getting wedding jewelry was not a priority anymore. But the second thing is that after COVID, we can see that it reaches the level of before, but also it increased at a way faster speed. What I mean by that is that the COVID really created like a stop, a net stop, but then it started again way faster. And the reason is investments. Because if you remember what we just talked about a minute ago, investment is super important because now Chinese people really see wedding jewelry, high jewelry as an investment. And for people purchasing jewelry again and purchasing diamonds, investing in high materials, high stones is super important. So that's why it's driving again the market trends. Now let's move to our chapter 4, which is the market trends. This part is very important and very interesting for you because you will see that there are different trends that are driving the market, and that your consumer in wedding and engagement jewelry is maybe not the one you think. So if we look at the current number of marriage and number of weddings, you can see there is a decrease. Actually, if you look at this graph, all the weddings are decreasing by around 5%. So people are getting less married, but in the meantime, they invest more in their wedding jewelry when they get married. One important thing about that is to explain through the current pressure that Chinese people are facing in China. That is a big topic that many Chinese citizens and netizens talk about on Chinese social media, on Chinese blogs and forums, which is all about the 996 work culture, the fact that they work a lot, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days per week. And that when they live in first tier city, in big tier cities like Shanghai, Beijing, they really feel the pressure. And that is super important because for these people now, they change the way they see the priority in their life. It's really about work, and for them, getting married is not a priority anymore. And for that, there is actually some survey that was released that were quite surprising for me, is that 50% of Chinese urban women don't plan to get married, and for Chinese urban men, it's 25%. So it's quite a high number to take this into account. So what you will need to notice is a decrease of wedding jewelry, hence wedding jewelry sales. But in the meantime, the reason why these wedding jewelry sales are still rising is because even if wedding decrease, there is a new trend rising. And this one I want to talk to you about is about milestones. The thing is, many Chinese women are purchasing engagement rings for themselves. That's the big market trend today in China, is that when Chinese women reach a milestone in their life, in their career, which whether it is like purchasing an apartment, whether it is a new career milestone in their work, a new job, etc., they purchase for themselves gifts, and it's often an engagement ring, because there is also this new feminism trend where Chinese women think that they don't need to wait for men to purchase engagement ring for her, but they can purchase it for themselves. So I think it's super interesting for you to look at the wedding in their own sense, and the way like you can target this group of people, but also the feminism trend and how you can target women who don't plan to get married but want to have a beautiful gift for themselves to celebrate their new milestone. Now, chapter 5, the competition. So here it's super important for you to understand that the market, the jewelry market, is divided between international brands and Chinese brands. So when we talk about Chinese brands, the leaders are definitely Chow Tai Fook, Qilin, and Cindy Chow. These are the main brands that Chinese people will purchase. There is another one, I Do, that I want to talk to you right after this because it's a super interesting case study. And when we talk about international brands, your main competitors and the key leaders on the market are Cartier, Tiffany & Co., Chaumet, and De Beers. So it's the one you can look into if you plan your next strategy in terms of content, promotion, campaigns. You can look into them because their campaigns are really strong in China and they're really successful. But if we talk about Chinese brand, which I think it's always worth analyzing because they actually are Chinese and they know how to reach Chinese consumers, I want to talk to you about I Do. I Do is a jewelry brand launched by a Chinese designer. And what is interesting is that they are proposing a wide assortment and especially focusing on engagement and wedding rings. And why the strategy was so interesting is because they had a specific campaign and they had a specific consumer experience, which is a man in his lifetime can only purchase one time a wedding ring from the brand I Do. So this is quite a strong statement because it means that a man can never buy twice in this brand. So even if he likes the brand, he can only purchase once in his lifetime. So it's quite complicated to implement that. But the thing is, it actually worked so well. So today, when you are on the Chinese social media literate book, or if you are on WeChat, you can really see many Chinese women sharing their I do rings, their I do engagement rings and wedding rings. And the reason is because for them, it was really a proof of love, which means that if your husband is purchasing for you an I do ring, it means that you count a lot for him and that even if you get divorced, you will always be the one who received the I do ring. And I think it's super interesting to see how they really built this sense of exclusivity on the Chinese market. And they really created their niche so that in the Chinese consumer mind, there is the I do wedding ring and the other rings. So that if you receive a ring from another brand, you are not that special, but when you receive an I do ring, you are really special. And that was the key selling point. And that's why today on Literate Book, they are everywhere. Then in terms of competition, there is two things that you will need to face. The first one being the niche brands. People are getting a little upset with big brands because they feel they are not different from others. So what they want today is to have niche brands, designers brands that they can actually show off by showing they have a different taste and a different knowledge in fashion. So that's the first thing. And the second thing being the custom-made jewelry. Among the most successful brands in China are the ones who propose custom-made jewelry. So you have two types of custom-made. The first one being you pick the design and the material among the proposition of the brand. And the second one, which is the most exclusive one, really targeting HNWI, is when they can really draw the design they want. So really draw the ring, pick the material, pick the stones. And that is super, super important and working pretty well. So if you are a designer brand, the good news for you is that you have a lot of space to actually gain market share. And if you propose custom made, even if you are located in Europe or in the US, it's still a key advantage and a USP because people are really looking for this. Now let's move to our chapter 6, which is all about the strategy you can implement in China. So there are different steps. And if you have two different cases, the first one being you are already in China and what you want is to improve your brand success and brand awareness. Second one is that you are not yet in China and want to enter the markets. So the tools you will use are quite the same, it's just the way you will use them are different. So if you plan to enter the Chinese market or want to boost your high jewelry and especially your engagement and wedding jewelry, you will have two key social media to build your brand. Because in China, when we talk about brand building, it's not about your creative design or your image or your logo. It's really about getting noticed in China, building the brand, because as you know, in China, they don't have access to Instagram, they don't have access to Google, so they cannot find your official account and they don't know how strong you are on your home market or worldwide. So what you need there is to use the right social media channels to get noticed by your target audience, but especially to know which social media are the key for your category. And when we talk about engagement and wedding jewelry, there are two social media. The first one being Literate Book or Xiaohongshu, and the second one being WeChat or Weixin. For Literate Book, it's super important, so it's kind of a mix of Instagram and Pinterest. Important for you to know is that 80% of the users are women. And what they are really looking for is for new brands launching on the market, new campaigns, new products. And it's a way for people who love fashion to know the latest trends and the latest brands. So what you need to do actually is to have an official account there. So it's a setup process that takes around 1 month where you will set up your brand, have your official account. Very important to get your account notified with the blue check, because otherwise from a Chinese consumer point of view, you look like a user account and it can affect the trust in your brand. So get your account verified and then post regular content. Regular content about your brand storytelling, show your long history, show your manufacturing, show how the high quality of your product is, and share about your latest collections. The key, in my perspective, the key strategy is to focus on some hero products. So it's better not to show all your assortment of wedding and engagement rings, but to really focus on 2 to 3 very specific products. The reason is, as you know, the market is overflooded with wedding and engagement brands, but you will have your own specific design that nobody will see somewhere else. So what you need first is to identify this design, and this is the one you will promote on Literate Book. And then you can go a step further by having a partnership with KOL and KOC, so big influencers and smaller influencers. And with them, you will have KOL campaigns when they will post pictures of your wedding rings, where they will try them on, share some advice, etc. And this content, you will be able to use it on your own account or link it in the TA section. Another thing you will use is also the paid ads that are super important on Literate Book. One thing to know is that now on Literate Book, people have to mention where they come from. So the good news now is that with the paid ads, you can target people from very specific areas, so from very specific provinces or cities. So if you see that you have, and especially if you are already in China and you have some retail stores in specific cities like Shanghai or Beijing or Hangzhou, you can target these people specifically to drive traffic to your store. This is for Literate Book. And for WeChat, it's, for me, from my perspective, the second most important social media. And the reason is because everyone has WeChat in China. It's a very private network because people will not be able to find you if they don't search for you. So that's super important. So that's why you need to combine it with Literate Book, that people discover you. And when they like you, they can engage with you on Literate Book and on WeChat. What will be the difference of WeChat in this will be in the way you use it. Basically on WeChat, you can post regular content, latest news about your brands, about your collections, super good tool. But what you will focus on will be the mini programs. And this is super important because you can build from scratch some mini apps, mini programs. In your case, what you need to do is really to have some mini programs about WeChat store, of course, but also why not, if you have the team, to have some mini program with augmented reality or virtual try-on, where they can record their hand and see how the ring fits on them. This is working pretty well. Or you can also have some other mini program where they can find a better store nearby, or when they can create their own engagement ring. By selecting the material, the stone, they can try some things and see what they like, and then directly place an order. And on the back end, you can receive the order and actually produce and ship it to China. So that could be a good strategy. Then what you will need to do is to combine it with online reputation, because even if people discover you on social media, they don't trust you. And that's super important, because one thing is that Chinese people never want to be the first to purchase a new brand. Like any other consumers, you will tell me, because even if you think about Amazon, when you see an empty page, you don't want to be the first one to purchase. It is the same here. And what they will look for is that they will go on Baidu, which is the Chinese Google, and they will see what people say about your brand. So for that, they will see if you have any press release, if you have any official magazine talking about you, and to see on blogs and forums what people say about you. So first case scenario, nobody talks about you and you have basically no reputation. So here they don't trust you because they think that you're a new brand, or they don't know if you are a counterfeited brand. Second scenario is that people talk about you, but negatively, and this you don't want either. What you want is that people talk about you and people talk about you positively. So for this, you can combine several solutions. The first one being PR, so having press releases in big magazines like Vogue China, Elle China, GQ China, but also more local magazine with high traffic like Sohu Fashion, super important. And then the second thing is to combine some reviews on blogs and forums, what we call in general Q&A. And on this, what is important is to have question and answer, people talking about your brand on Jihu or on other blogs and forums. And when you combine all of this, the institutional communication and the organic communication, people will get a higher trust. And the final touch, and I insist on this because it shouldn't be the core strategy, your core strategy in China, it should be just the cherry on the cake, which is the influencers. Because influencers, they will bring you more exposure, but that will be nothing without trust. So first build trust, then bring exposure. And with KOL, what you can do is to drive direct traffic and drive direct sales. Option 1 on your international websites. Option 2 on your e-commerce stores in China or on your retail stores in China. And for the sales, you really have these two options. E-commerce, because that's where all people go purchase. Chinese consumers, they really have this tendency to purchase online. And for high jewelry, for wedding jewelry, it's always one, it's Tmall. So Tmall, if you don't know this one, it's part of Alibaba Group. So it's very important and it's really more high-end. So all the luxury brands are on it and you have two possibilities. You have the Tmall, so you can have a Tmall store, even a Tmall global store with your international business license and international trademark. Or you can also join the Tmall Luxury Pavilions, which is dedicated only to luxury brands. And here, the potential consumer that will browse your store are very different. Because on Tmall, you will have basically all the users of Tmall, while on Tmall Luxury Pavilion, it's already Tmall who selected just the people with higher financial meaning who can actually purchase luxury. So this is important, and for this, what you will need to do is to really set up the store, have some promotion, and then boost your sales. And then you will need to combine it with some retails, because in the case of engagement and wedding rings, consumers still want to try the products offline. So for this way, your distribution will be important to be in very high-end retail stores, high-end malls. So for this, you need to talk with the right distributors and the right retailers. If you are just starting on the market, what I suggest you to do is to go to Wedding Expo. It's an exposition and exhibition in China. It's in 7 cities, including Shanghai, Beijing, Hangzhou, and Wuhan. And you can go there. And what is actually interesting is that it's for both B2C and B2B. So you will meet potential retailers, potential distributors, but you will also meet regular clients, regular consumers who can directly meet you, discover your brands, and actually make purchase. So it will be good for these two sides of the coin, the B2C and the B2B. So that's it for the engagement and wedding jewelry in China. It was a quite long video, so I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned new things, because that's the most important for me. If you liked this insight, what I can suggest you is to subscribe to the channel, because we are posting regular videos about the Chinese markets. Or you can also check our website, fashionchina.agency.com. You can have a free consultation with me or from someone else with the team. We can talk about your brand, your product for China, your objective, and we can talk about a more specific plan for you and see what we can do for you. In the past years, we have helped several luxury and fashion brands to enter the market or to grow on the market, and I really hope you can be the next one we will work with. So thank you for watching it, and see you soon.